Who's your emergency contact? Who should be notified in case of death? Welcome to the USP, where I've spent the last 2+ decades of my life. In yesterday's video, I was sharing people that, when you commit to these certain groups, organization, and family, it's for life. And somebody had a question about, well, am I still in it for life? Yeah, I'm not an ex-gang member, but I'm also not active. I've earned the respect from my peers, from my homeboys, to move on with my life. And with that in mind, when I do these videos, I'm always conscious and respectful of certain things that I'm not supposed to divulge on here or talk about. And sometimes I walk a fine line, but for the most part, I think I've done my duty to toe the line, But also, just a little background on who I am and who we are. There's different levels of gangs, and we're not in the upper echelon as far as like the Black Hand, the Nostra Familia, the TS, or Texas MA. Our group out here in Utah, we're small. Most of us are all related. My cousin, my homeboys, they got their cousins, their brothers. It was a very small knit group that we was out here doing what we was doing. And, the environment that I came home to is all credit to my homeboys that's been home before me. We used to have beefs. We used to have a war that there's been, people from both sides that's been hurt, that's been killed. And through the last 20-something years, a lot of these dudes were forced into a state prison and forced to do time together. And at the end of the day, we're all Asians. And I would love to be able to find a way for all the Asians throughout the United States to come together and get along. Because really, outside of money, all the other beefs that we have going back and forth really just spark from frivolous stuff. Maybe just pride or ego or, just having the older generation instill in us that these dudes are our enemies. But as for me, if I'm in a penitentiary and I sit down with you and eat with you and got along with you, how do I justify coming home and then acting like I don't know you, acting like we didn't have each other's back? That's why I've said in some of my other videos, if we can find a way to coexist inside the walls, then we need to preach that shit to the kids out here, to the people out here, because it's going to make you look like a buster if you're in there kicking it, eating, having conversations, being cool, being respectful to the opposition, but as soon as you come out, you're like, oh man, fuck them dudes this, fuck them dudes that. That just makes you look like a buster. But at the same time, if you're in there doing those things and you're still calling home and still, promoting the drama between these dudes that you're sitting on the same table at, how does it look like to your homeboys? Like, damn, we out here putting in work against these dudes, but you guys are over there in the penitentiary kicking it. So that's been my mentality when I came home, is that, man, if we're able to coexist within the walls, then we need to be able to find a way to coexist out here. And again, out here in Utah, for the most part, the homies that came home, whether they Polynesians, Tongans, Samoans, Asians, like there's been a level of unity and peace that hasn't been here for a long time. Since I've been home, I've been invited to funerals and weddings that maybe before these guys would have not invited me over there. You know, to the homies out in Glendale, I'm from West Valley. And Glendale and West Valley, we don't really gel, you know, our history. We have a lot of history. But, you know, I've done a lot of time with a lot of the homies that's out of Glendale. And when I came home, they invited me to Fahilok's funeral. And I was probably the only one out of the valley that was over there to show my respect and my love for the homies. You know, we took pictures and everything. And, you know, my wife was concerned about, well, when I get in trouble being over here. And I thought about it before I posted on my Facebook. But at the end, I concluded, man, I'm doing more for my community by showing up to these places that I'm invited to than any of these Scare Straight programs they have out in the city. Because as far as the valley is concerned, as far as youth are concerned, me and other dudes that are of the same caliber, we're known in the community and we're respected in the community. And I don't ever want to be somebody that just preach or just say stuff out of the side of my face. I want to lead by example. You know, most of the people that we get in there that are in the penitentiary, and they're trying to feed their family. And some of us are in there because we're gangbanging. I went to prison for gangbanging and in conjunction with all the robberies that I was out here doing. You know, I don't want my ignorance to be an excuse, but at the time, that's what I knew. I wasn't taught better. And I never stopped to think and decide to do better. But now we live in an age of information. Everything that we want to do, everything we want to learn about is at the tip of our fingers. And I still have a hard time navigating all this screen and stuff. And I would get frustrated because my brain doesn't compute that way. But I know that the knowledge is in here. And that if I apply myself and commit myself, that I can find the information that I need and do the things that I need to do in life to live a better life. Not just for myself, not just for my family, but for my community. You know, coming home, I don't want to be one of them dudes that highlight and glorify all the craziness. You know, all the stuff that's, you know, I've shared with people and I've told people, like, you know, all the stuff that we glorify, all the cool stuff that pertaining to this life, it amounts to about 1%. The other 99% is all misery. You know, being taken away from your family, being in a cold cell, not knowing if you're going to live or die day to day, watching the world go by on a TV screen, watching your parents and your siblings and your nieces and nephews, or even your kids. I don't have any kids, but for those that do, watching them grow old through photographs. Because there's people that slam down that can never get visits. You know, during my time when I was incarcerated, I went years and years on visiting restriction. You know, I got caught up, I got hit with a shot, I got a 2-year visiting restriction. Then I got another shot before those 2 years was up. They tagged another 2 years. There was 6 years straight from 2006 to all the way to about 2012 while I was on visiting restriction. I was able to get visit once every 6 months through hardship when I filed I put in a cop out to get a special visit, you know, a hardship visit. My family lived more than 1,000 miles from where I was at. And, you know, to the credit of the administration and the warden over there in Atwater, he allowed me to get a visit every 6 months. But seeing your loved ones every 6 months, like even then I was fortunate because there's people that don't ever get a visit. There's people that don't even be able to use the phone. I was still grateful for that, you know. But my point being is that it's a hard life to live. It ain't a life for no punks, but it's a hard life that is unnecessary. I don't sit here and try to tell you what you should and shouldn't do with your life. To each his own. If it's working out for you, that's great. But for the 90% of the people that is not working out for, maybe you should take a second look at your life. And I'm not telling you to be a buster, because I don't got no love for busters. I ain't got no love for rats. I ain't got no love for those sex offenders. And it's always going to be that way. But my thought process is, if you're homies, really, truly homies, and these are really your friends and your family, and you got love for each other, then maybe you shouldn't put each other in a position that they might lose their freedom, or they might lose their life, or they might tell on each other. A lot of times back then we have the excuse that we're only doing what we know within the limited resources that we have. But again, that's no longer an excuse. The only excuse now is how you apply yourself. I got a lot of homies that came home that changed their life, that did their time the way they were supposed to. They came home, they started businesses. They started restaurants with their family. They started construction companies. They started, HVAC companies, flooring companies. And those guys are an inspiration to me. And not only that, while they were doing that, they were extending the olive branch to the dudes that we used to war with. And credit to them too on the other side, that they accepted it. Because since I've been home, I've been to Cambodia New Year and I've been to Laos New Year. And both times I had dudes run up on me, not in a negative way, but run up on me and extend their hand and be like, hey, what's up, man? We good. And I don't know who they are. I don't recognize them. I've been gone so long. I've been gone since 1998. Just process that. And at the same time, I'm still fortunate and grateful that it was only 20-something years. Because I still have friends and people that I care about that have been there 30 years. And there's no light at the end of the tunnel for them. But going back to the story, these dudes came out and they extended their hand. Now, if they had negative intentions for me, if they wanted to cause me harm, I would have been a sitting duck, because I don't recognize nobody and I don't know anybody out here. Everybody don't look the same no more from, when they were 18, 17 years old, 19 years old, when I was out here, to middle-aged men. I don't know what the hell they look like. I don't know, but everybody says I look the same still. I've been preserved. I've been pickled in the penitentiary. But, to their credit, and for me, I'm going to give props where props are due. And I'm grateful for them that they built a more peaceful community out here amongst our community, amongst the Asians. We're not beefing anymore out here. It's not crazy. Nobody's got to walk around and watch their back or anything like that. And I'm grateful for that. But, they were a little concerned when I came home, because during the whole time that I was locked up, I was active. I had dudes from I did time with dudes from California and other places. And they were like, hey, man, when we get locked up, we gotta leave all that stuff on the streets. But my mentality was like, I'm trying to kill you on the street. Why would I come in here and sit with you in a place where you can't get away from me? So when I first went into the system, that's how I was. When dudes came in that we didn't get along with on the street, I was smashing them out. I was life flighting them. And, everything I've done in the penitentiary, the people out here hears about it, knows about it. How? I don't know. But, they got somebody that did time with, that was there on the yard with me, or that was in the county with me, or was in my block or whatever. When they come home, they share the story or however it goes. So the couple of months leading to my release, because everybody thought I had a life sentence. They thought I was dead and buried, that they didn't have to ever worry about me no more. I'm going to be behind that wall for the rest of my life. But when I had my wife post my stuff on Facebook, telling everybody I'm about to come home, there was a lot of people that was concerned. And both sides. My homeboys were concerned, and the people that we used to beef with were concerned. Because they've heard that through my whole period, the 20 years that I've done time, until the day I came home, I was on the front line, I was active. So they're like, man, is Mason still gonna come home with this craziness and disrupt the peace that we built out here in the community? Some of the events that I've been to, weddings, funerals and stuff, I didn't know this stuff. But, these dudes, they brought that concern to me. They're like, hey, man, what's up with you? How you feeling? I'm just like, what are you talking about? I'm happy to be home, I'm just chilling. Just, man, are you sure? Because they know I don't forget, and I'm hard to forgive. I'm slow to forgive, and I carry, part of my fault is that I carry a lot of anger, a lot of hatred in my heart because of, everything that transpired 20 years ago that led me to prison. I had people tell on me, dudes that were supposed to have been gang banging. When I went and put in that work, they were IDing me in a photo lineup. I had a couple co-defendants that took the stand on me. So I carried a lot of animosity and anger. But, at the same time, while I was in there, being 20 years old, getting a 26-year sentence, to me, that was a life sentence. And my thought process was, I might not make it home. And so thinking that I might not make it home, I wasn't really concerned about coming home. And I just went hard. When they locked me, when they threw me behind that wall, when I first went to Lompoc, the SIS reviewed my case, and, I got the assault on a correctional officer when I knocked him out in the county. And they're like, oh, you from Utah? And what gang is this? TOP? What the fuck is that? And like, oh yeah, we got real gang members on this yard. I'm in Lompoc, I'm in a California yard. It's all Serenos, GDs, Crips, Bloods, and all that stuff. And I'm just a young kid out of Utah. Most people that aren't from around here, they think we ride around in doom buggies, and they associate us with the Mormon church. We're a bunch of church-going, doom buggy riding people out here. But, it don't matter where you're from. There's busters from everywhere, and there's gangsters from everywhere. I've been on yards with dudes that come from the big city, New York, Texas, California, and all that. And again, there's gangsters that come from out of those places, Chicago, but there's just as many busters too. So, they try to scare me. Like, You know, these real gangsters out here on this yard. But like I said, my mentality was like, I don't give a fuck. Like, you know, I've been doing what I've been doing. I expected to be locked up. So when they asked me, you got an issue going on the compound? I said, nah, man, throw me out there. I'll deal with it. You know, and I did. But I didn't go out in the yard being goofy. I went out in the yard just the way I am. I'm always respectful until somebody jumps out there. But I want to give, you know, a shout out to all the older gentlemen that was in Lompoc with me that took me under their wings and that really taught me how to be a man. Taught me what gangster is really about. You know, it ain't all that goofy shit. It's about loyalty, honor, respect, doing your duty, taking care of your family. You know, because these guys, when I first fished in, they've already been there 20-something years. They've already been there 30, 40 years. And some of them were never coming home. You know, through the course of my bid, I've always engaged in conversation with older and wiser dudes. And for the most part, you still got dudes that are in there that are 60 years old, still sagging, still crip walking, you know, but that's them. And there's nothing wrong with that. I don't, you know, but that's their mentality. They don't, they're not going to ever have an opportunity to ever come home. So they're stuck in that mentality. Why do I need to evolve or change? I'm going to die here. So I'm going to rep the shit that I signed up for to the fullest to the day I die. And I respect that all day. You know, but this is not my life. I don't want my life to be this. I don't want my legacy to be this. You know, I want to come home and do something and take care of my family, take care of my wife, be able to be successful in whatever avenue that I seek, so that to give her a peace of mind that I'm not going to be out here doing things to get me back into prison. And for the most part, you know, I've done pretty well out here as far as staying out of trouble. But there's really no trouble to get into unless I create it myself anyway, you know? And that's with a lot of things. Like, we create the troubles. We create the environment that we live in, because just like I said, when you go to prison, when you go to different yards, you know, the mentality of yards are different depending on the people that is there. Sometimes you get a yard that's full of goofy shit. And sometimes you get a yard that's just off the chain. But it's not the yard, it's the population, because the yard itself is just barbed wire fence, brick walls, and metals. There's no life in them. They don't breathe. They don't have a consciousness. The blood that flows through the system is the consciousness. And it's the same way out here in the streets. You know, don't matter if you live in the hood, in the ghetto, middle income, lower income. Those are all just bricks, wood, cement. It's the population that creates the environment. There's no reason why your hood can't be clean, can't be safe. Because the trees ain't the one robbing you. The house ain't the one shooting you up. The sidewalks ain't the one kidnapping your kids or violating girls or women or anything like that. It's the population. And if we all take pride in where we live, I know we can make it better. Because if you ask anybody that exists, you know, do you want to live in a neighborhood where your little brothers and sisters can go out there and play and not have to worry about getting shot up or getting kidnapped? All of them's going to say yeah. And for the few that say no, fuck them. You know? But all of them's going to say yeah. But we're always waiting for somebody else to do something. You know? if you want to get something done, you have to take the initiative to do it yourself. And then hopefully other people see you leading with action instead of words, that they'll follow suit. Because everybody's always hesitant and scared to be the first one to jump. So you got to be the one to jump. And at the end of the day, homie, I don't care if they're gangbangers, organized crime, gangsters. If they see that what you're doing is good, they're going to respect that. Because being a gangster, being a gangbanger, being part of organized crime don't mean we're a piece of shit people. It's just we have aligned ourselves to these entities mainly for financial reasons, because there's ways for us to make money that we're not able to in this other aspect of it. And some people like the life. But you even ask them, dudes that are gang members, dudes that are part of organized crime, what kind of neighborhood they want to live in. Because, as soon as they get the money, they don't stay in the hood. They move out to a gated community or, upper income neighborhood where it's safer for their kids. I tell these dudes out here that I have conversations with, like, if you're not willing to send your son out there in the streets, then how can you justify sending somebody else's kid out there in the streets? When you put it in that perspective for them, it gets them to think a little bit. Like, I'm not here to change the community. I'm not delusional or have such a high opinion of myself that I'm able to do that. But the thing that I can control is me. And the things I control is how I conduct myself. So if they see me in neighborhoods that maybe we weren't allowed in before, shaking hands with dudes, functioning with them at the events that I'm invited to, showing that, man, we can coexist, then maybe they'll think that they can coexist too. Because again, all the troubles, all the chaos is created by us. What we push, the mentality that we push. I could have easily came back home and incited the war again. Been like, man, fuck them dudes. These dudes are this and these dudes are that. Let's go. And there was homies that was ready to go. But I don't want that. I don't want that for them. Because I've been to a place where I don't wish my worst enemy to be at. I've been in them cold cells, stomach rubbling, hoping and praying for a freaking ramen soup, cold ramen soup, where you take it and soak it in the water, no heat, and it just fluffs up and gets fat and is all soggy. You put the seasoning in there and it tastes like a gourmet meal when your ass is starving. I've been shackled and belly chained and left in the cell for 3 days. When I got a shit, my celly's got to fucking stand behind me to flush the toilet because I'm belly chained. I've been on sack lunch rotations for months. I've been thrown in the cell with nothing but my underwear for 2 weeks straight. With the air on. I ain't got no shower shoes, no shirt, no pants, no sheets, no blankets, no pillow, no toilet paper. Just my dun-da-duns. Sitting on my bunk, cold bunk, freezing. Doing push-ups until I exhaust myself so I can go to sleep. And then as soon as my body hits the cold bunk, I'm shocked back, shock awake because it's freezing. These aren't the things that I want for anybody, and especially for my community and my peoples. So I'm not an ex anything, but I've earned my place here as far as being allowed to move on with my life. And at the end of the day, if somebody had a problem with me moving on with my life, they can come and holler at me. I don't got no problem dealing with it. But the people around me, and I'm grateful for them, that they all respected my decision. They've respected the place that I am in with my life. And it's all love. But unfortunately, for a lot of people, the situation ain't the same for them. Misery loves company. When you see a good homie that's done everything that you've expected him to do, want to move on with their life, there's still some dudes that feel some type of way and don't want to allow that. And that's unfortunate. And, I can't speak to that aspect of it. But for me, my personal situation, I've been blessed. I've came to a great situation. And like I said, the work that's been put in my community was done way before me. I haven't done shit. I've only been out a year, So the peace and the unity and the productivity amongst my community has nothing to do with me. Has to do with all the homies that came before me. And that's the Poly homies, the Tongans, the Samoans, and the Asians from both sides. From my homeboys to the dudes that we used to not get along with. And it's a credit to them. And it's all much love and respect to what they've done and what they've built. I mentioned a couple months back, we buried my homeboy Cena, Paul Alma. And at the funeral, there was Mexicans, there was whites, there was Polys from Glendale, there was Polys from Rose Park. Out here in the valley, it's West Valley, Glendale, and Rose Park. Those are, the different neighborhoods or the different hoods that used to funk. But there was people from all walks of life that showed up to his funeral. Paying our respect to the homie that's, he was a G all the way till he died. He spent 20-something years of his life. And when he came home, he wasn't home a year. They diagnosed him with stage 4 cancer. And, that was that. But it was, he came to a point in his life where he wanted to move on, and he never got a chance to. The disease took him. But I don't want that for anybody else out here. I don't want you to spend 20-something years of your life in prison, then finally realize that maybe this ain't it, and want to change, and then have that shit stripped away from you, whether a car accident or illness. I want you to make that decision now. That I want you to live your life from now and 20 years down the road in a positive way, in a way that you can be here for your family, be here with your family, be able to go to weddings and funerals and see your nieces or your kids be born. A lot of my homies missed out on that. And, right now, like as far as my little crew, everybody's back home except for the homie Lot. He got done dirty. He got 2 different cases for the same body. They gave him a father life in the state for a body. He ended up doing 20 years for that. Then the feds gave him 30 years for the same body under the RICO. They're saying, oh, we're not charging you for murder. We're charging you under RICO, but murder as an element. When the homie was facing the RICO in 2006, they were all looking at 20 or something years. But all the homies stayed solid. None of them was telling on each other. So the prosecutor came with them with a deal. They said, hey, if you get somebody to plead guilty to the body, we'll give everybody else 10 years and under. When I called home from Beaumont, the homie's brother that wasn't locked up was like, hey, this is the offer that the prosecutor is offering the homie. And they're like, and the homies asked, their mindset was like, man, ain't none of us telling on each other. We can beat this. We're not an organized crime. But the things that people got to understand with the feds, they don't care. Once they indict you, once they have, their claws in you, it's hard to get away. And they have a 96, 94, 96 conviction rate. So ain't too many people has ever got away from them. So I told the homie, I said, look, you go to trial. Yeah, we are not what they're trying to say we are. We are not an organized crime. We are homies that grew up together, that got into some issues, But the way they're going to lay it out is not going to come out that way. And you have the people here that's going to be the jury, which are, squares, mostly Caucasians, that some of them might have, a prejudice leaning, racial, undertone with them, that they just look at you like, well, you wouldn't be in this courtroom anyway if you weren't doing what the government is accusing you of. So you're not going to be really judged by your peers. That's a fabrication. That's a lie. Because when I went to trial, I didn't know, none of them were my age, and none of them were even my shade of color. And I was, so I was like, yeah, the indictment might not be factual, might not be true, but if you get guilty, you didn't get 20 plus years. I said 10 years is nothing. At the time, I've already been down 8 years. I was like, man, it's almost over. It goes by quick. So my advice, my 2 cents was, go talk to the homie Lot. And the homie Lot, to his credit, yeah, he took the hit. He took the hit for the body. He got 2 different sentences, the state and the feds, for one body. But him pleading guilty to the body allowed everybody else to go home within 6 to 8 years. And all those guys are home, and the only one that's left now, he's in FCI Victorville. I think he's in Victorville 2. He's in the shoe right now. But, a lot of homies owe him that love. And he did that for the love of his people. And again, I want to find a way to build if there is a message to be spread, to spread the message that, man, the shit that we do is unnecessary. A lot of stuff that we do to get our people locked up, to throw away our youth and our life, a lot of it's unnecessary. Thank you. Welcome to the USP.